It really is an honor to be out here, and I thank you all for your two things, really, for the privilege of being invited to present, and secondly, for the superb process that you've outlined. We have obviously been participating in a process that was set up, and it has worked extremely well. We've been able to exchange information and interact with your team in a way that has allowed, I think, what I hope is for us to put our best proposal forward at this point, and I hope that you'll find it that to be true as well. We are going to break our discussion into 4 sections. Why we're here. It's not an existential question. I think everybody has their own view of why they're here. And you know why you're here this morning. I want to just reframe that. And we have a perspective I'd like to share on why we're here. And then we'll talk about our company, who we are, and then a bit about our success, only because we want you to understand our story, not because we want you to be super impressed with how great we are. We don't like to get into that kind of stuff. We just need you to understand what we would bring to the table, and it'll be a sample because the time doesn't allow a deep dive on a lot of these things. And then we'll share with you a vision and a proposal. I'm going to get the suspense out early, though. After I make one thing very, very clear. The way we have chosen to approach this proposal is that it is not about Florida Hospital. It's really about Health Central. You've been here, I believe, 58 years. Is that right, Richard? Not you. But the hospital. And
John's grandfather was here 58 years ago.
Okay, well, I thought you were going to throw that ball to John and accuse him of being here 50. But anyway, Health Central's been here 58 years, doing a great job, and frankly, a job we didn't even fully understand until we were invited over here to visit, preliminary to this process, to have it explained to us and to see the campus and really see things and touch and understand what's going on. So the reason we're here today is we want to discuss your future of your vision, and we believe Florida Hospital is well positioned to help you achieve your vision. And I want to be sure that that's the point. This is not about us, it's about you. Right out, let's just get this on the table. For the rest of the presentation, what we're proposing is that Health Central would merge into Adventist Health System, however, not as a Florida Hospital campus under its license, but as on its own license, medical staff, board, etc., as a separate hospital, managed, however, within the Florida Hospital system in the Central Florida market. And we'll get into that and try to explain why later, but we think that this needs to be operated as a standalone hospital with the Florida Hospital brand, indistinguishable to the customer as separate from Florida Hospital, but as an operation on a standalone basis. We would propose that the assets and liabilities as reflected on a given date, whenever the transaction might occur, would be brought in. We would assume all the assets and liabilities. We would guarantee $100 million of capital over the next 5 years. And we can get into discussion of our capital model. We've been much more detailed in our response on the 19 questions that you submitted to us as to the capital model. But the reason capital is very important is that's the investment, that's the vision of Health Central encapsulated in financial terms. You have to have that capital to do what you need to do to grow in West Orange County and in this site. So we can talk plenty more about the capital commitment, but we want you to be clear, we're not messing around with what we would invest in the place. There would be a board that would obviously continue to operate the hospital as an independent licensed hospital within Adventist Health System. By nature of the way our corporate bylaws are written, that board would be ultimately appointed with the authority of the Adventist Health System Board. And then we would invest and continue to strengthen in your vision right here and on the west side of Orlando. We would see this as a major hospital hub which it already is, but as we've had preliminary discussions, you're seeing some limits to what you can do on your own in the future, and as part of a system, we would develop this as a major hub for the West Market, which is a market that Florida Hospital does not have much representation in today. So this is a glove-like fit for our market coverage in the 3 counties of Central Florida market as we're defining them for today's discussion. And then, as I mentioned, we would integrate the identity fully within the Florida Hospital brand, and we would retain the medical staff and physician governance structure reporting up to the board on the matters that are delegated to the medical staff and governed by the board. And then, of course, we would see, by and large, the employee population continuing to work here under the new structure. So a couple of minutes about who Florida Hospital and Adventist Health System are. And I want to explain this as clearly as I can so that I will interchange Adventist Health System, Florida Hospital throughout the discussion. Adventist Health System operates in this market as Florida Hospital. It's a DBA of Adventist Health System, doing business as subcorp. When we talk about Florida Hospital, I'm referring to the 7-8 campus license that covers Seminole, Orange, Osceola County market. So we'll go through the campus model in a few minutes. But as part of Adventist Health System, I thought it'd be important to explain to you our consolidated obligated group and how it issues debt and so forth and so on. It's a single company. It's a national healthcare company operating 44 hospitals in 10 states. You can see on the screen. And have we passed the books out?
No, we didn't.
Okay. You can see the dots on the map for where we're represented. We have rural hospitals. We have major markets like Denver, where we have 4 hospitals. We have sort of sole community provider, like our little place down in Wauchula, Florida, and right on up into Chicago and throughout the country. Florida is a very big part of Adventist Health System. I'll toggle back to that slide. You can see how many dots are in Florida. There are 24 hospitals now that we operate in Florida. And those are my responsibility in addition to being the CEO here of the Florida Hospital in Central Florida. So these are just a blowout picture representation of the Florida division, 24 hospitals. And within that, we have separated the operation into 2 accountable sets. One, Florida Hospital, here in the Tri-County area, and then the rest of the market. But the important thing I want you to note is that we have these 24 hospitals in a very tightly clustered, contiguous, integrated market from Flagler to Tampa. And we do not really look for opportunities to grow in areas where we can't make sense of the market. In other words, a single operation. We've had multiple opportunities that we've been invited to propose, and we just don't see ourselves collecting assets and saying, wow, what a nice looking map. We like to see this as the future of healthcare. You asked a question about the future in your 19 questions of accountable care organizations. We see a very tightly integrated future of a medical delivery model that can handle medical conditions, and we're going to insist that this group of hospitals in Florida operate in a way that brings the maximum benefit to the patient and the customer with an experience that's consistent, and that at any entry point, in Wauchula, for example, there should be the possibility of having the best neurosurgeon in our system in Orlando looking at a film and advising that ER doc on what to do about that aneurysm. So it goes way beyond that. We are running on all the same clinical information chassis. Systems like our picture archiving system that makes radiology work and distribute to remote sites. This is a very important aspect of our strategy model that I wanted to make sure you understand, and that's something we would love to see Health Central become part of. Now here in Central Florida, Florida Hospital, as I explained earlier, has 8 campuses. Now I show 7 on this map. The Children's Hospital is being treated and designated as a campus within a campus. So these are the 7 locations in Central Florida. Children's Hospital is the 8th. So if you hear me toggling back. I don't want to confuse you with what you're seeing, but we do call ourselves an 8-campus system now, with the Children's Hospital and the Walt Disney Pavilion having its own designation as a campus. Back to Adventist Health System. It's a $6 billion a year company. That's net revenue for the company from all of its hospitals, nursing home division, home health, and other related entities, including whatever physician practices we have as part of the company. In Florida, we've grown from $2 billion in 2005 to now in 2010, $3.3 billion. So in 5 years, we've increased our business by 50% in the state. You see our ER visits, we're seeing, just to give you a sample of the volume, almost 900,000 patients in our emergency rooms in Florida, in this 24 hospitals, and almost 250,000 admissions a year. That makes Adventist Health System, with the multi-state division in Florida combined, the largest non-Catholic religious health care system in the country. And you can see this from Modern Healthcare Survey in 2009. They list Adventist Health System 5,900 beds. That's now grown since our merger with University Community in Tampa, so that brings it up by hundreds more beds. An important aspect that I hope we have an opportunity to express more clearly is the discipline of our balance sheet model for Adventist Health System. The balance sheet is not a sacred thing, but it is really, really important. And frankly, if we were entering healthcare reform right now with the balance sheet we had 10 years ago, we would be in some trouble. As of today, though, we started about 12 years ago with a target for Adventist Health System, and our board, Adventist Health System board, embraced the targets we set for debt to cap, days cash on hand, important things like that, and we established the capital model, how much we spend on capital at that time, at 70% of EBITDA for the entire company. And our model allows for the hospitals to keep a share of that capital, 35% of that EBITDA every year, for typical one-year kind of things, and this is explained in our document answering the 19 questions. And then there's a reserve for the corporation for strategic capital, so that if a facility should have a major multi-year capital project, they compete for that strategic capital, and you'll see some examples of how we've been able to spend that money. And that keeps hospitals locally competitive, and it gives them the opportunity then for that big capital to get those big projects done. That has allowed us to move from A-, Baa1 10 years ago with Moody's and Standard & Poor's to now we have a AA rating with all three of the rating agencies, and our cost of capital significantly has dropped from 6, weighted average cost of capital 6% 10 years ago to 4.5% now. Now that sounds like a small number, but in a place like Tampa, where we just moved in as the, and they joined our organization, we have reduced their capital cost, just the debt service, by $5 million a year. That becomes EBITDA, that generates capital, which can then be put back into the hospital and into the community. So that's an important thing. We don't need money being wasted on interest costs.